All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the next edition of Game Changers. Today I have on a very special guest, a friend of mine and colleague, and someone I would actually call my brother. Playing the specific music this time for this episode is because both Chuck and I went to Texas A&M, and that's kind of our Gigamaggie war hymn right there. So kind of kicking it off with that. And so without further introduction, I'd like to introduce Charles Henderson, otherwise known as Chuck Henderson, CEO and A of the American Diabetes Association. Very near and dear friend of mine. We played basketball in college together and have a special bond and relationship, business and personal. So, Chuck, go ahead and introduce yourself for the folks today.
Yeah, Roy, thank you, man. It's always good to connect, and as you said, man, we are lifelong brothers, man. Having played together at Texas A&M, and we have a great relationship. I like to say on and off the court, personally and professionally, man. But Chuck Henderson, pleasure to be here, CEO of the American Diabetes Association, and glad to be a part of Roy Wills's Game Changers podcast. So thank you for having me today.
Hey, absolutely. My pleasure. So, Chuck, I mean, you have done a significant amount in your journey. I mean, and that's kind of why I really wanted to highlight you on this podcast of mine, the Game Changers, where I hold up folks and give folks their flowers ahead of time as they deserve it. I mean, people like yourself, just with the level of success and integrity and community work that you're doing, and especially now your role at the American Diabetes Association. Kudos to you, man. Just hats off with the cause and just the organization. I mean, so let's start there. You were recently awarded, some an award recently. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, thank you, Roy, for the gracious introduction. So yeah, as a matter of fact, I was in Washington D.C. last week. BlackDoctor.org, which is a minority-focused online forum where they give a lot of great information around prevention, treatment, around your health, and what to watch out for. As a person of color, and so. They had their ninth annual Top Blacks in Healthcare award, and so it was in D.C. last night. And so I was blessed, man, to be amongst 14 other awardees that are incredibly bright from all facets, from presidents of colleges of medicines, highly influential executives from biotech, pharma, a lot of researchers, a lot of clinicians, and so felt very, very blessed to be a part of that a great group of individuals.
That's phenomenal, Chuck. What an accomplishment! Congratulations to you on that for sure. So let's get right into it, man. I mean, you and I can talk forever, and trying to keep this in the line so we can cover and showcase the folks some of the great work that you're doing. So let's talk about a little bit about your background. So, what led you to your current role as the CEO of the American Diabetes Association?
Roy, I mean, I would say a multitude of things. I would say, based on my early days of upbringing, my mom, who you knew very well, Betty Henderson. She was a nurse, and she was a nursing professor, and so she actually taught nursing at Texas Women's University for 42 years. And so, growing up in a household where my mom talked about healthcare, educating, teaching that next generation of nurses, and then my dad was an educational professional in high school. He coached, and then he got into administration in the Houston Independent School District. And so I would say that was kind of that grounding foundation, having both parents in the household, both of their master's degrees, and then obviously going to Texas A&M, graduating from Texas A&M, and then getting into the business world and working in a multitude of different industries, which I think molded. So from technology to consulting to media and entertainment to advertising, and then getting into private equity, where I was an operator operating a couple companies focused on service. And then, just Roy, really, doing great work, really working hard for mentors that have mentored me throughout my life, whether it's from be athletics and whether it's from be a business. And then I would say, that personal connection that actually led me to the ADA is, I woke up one day and I'm like, Chuck, what kind of legacy do you really want to leave? What kind of example do you really want to show, for your daughter, who, as a matter of fact, just turned 16 about a week and a half ago. And
Wow.
so, having a grandmother and an uncle die of complications from diabetes. And so, really having that passion point about how do I want to spend the balance of my life or the balance of my career? And I think that healthcare is a good fit for me to spend the balance of my career in healthcare.
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you for connecting the dots there for me. So good segue too. I mean, because you talked a lot about, hard work and learning from your experiences. So share a little bit about your experience as an athlete and how really influenced your approach to leadership.
Yeah, I think from the early days. I mean, from when I was born. I mean, I come from a family of really highly elite athletes. My dad played, multiple sports in college. Also, my younger brother, who we didn't talk about, obviously played with us at Texas A&M as well. I have cousins and uncles that all played elite level sports, but the common thread there is they went to college and they knew that a degree was so important, got their degrees, some of them got their masters, some of them even got their PhDs. And so just grounding that from a foundation standpoint, and then from an experience as an athlete. I mean, it just, it teaches you resilience. It teaches you how to overcome adversity, and really it teaches you from a team aspect that one person is not greater than the team. You need everybody to play their roles, to play their different positions, and to do that as best as they can do to actually put you in the greatest position to win. And so I think that transcends sports. It transcends into business and then all facets of a life. And so, from a leadership standpoint, I lead with that team mentality, understanding that I am the CEO of the American Diabetes Association. Okay, I get that, but at the end of the day, you got to be able to influence. You got to be able to inspire. You got to be able to motivate people to actually, do what you want them to do in a positive way.
Absolutely. Sounds like we went to the same school, my friend. So I completely understand and get it. And I can totally relate with that. So, first of all, shout out to Corey Henderson, your brother who did play with us. Wanted to make sure we acknowledge him. Two of the coolest brothers I've ever been around as far as sports, man. You guys were phenomenal. Great athletes and great people, and highly successful in the later part of your careers now, too. So, dovetailing to that, so how do you apply the resilience that you learned in basketball and sports to overcome challenges? Because, that's something we're constantly faced with in our personal and professional lives. But, let's focus on professional lives right now. How do you apply it?
Yeah, Roy. I mean, I think that's a great question. I would say being the CEO of the American Diabetes Association is probably the epitome of that. When I think about 136 million Americans living with diabetes and pre-diabetes, and someone in America is diagnosed every 26 seconds, this is such a big epidemic. And so the mission of the ADA to prevent and cure diabetes and improve the lives of all people affected by diabetes has never been more urgent. And so when I think about, sports and then overcoming challenges in your professional life, I mean, there's a lot of parallels there. I mean, as you know, Roy, we had to get up at 5 o'clock every morning and run sprints, get in the weight room and do all that stuff. And then we had to go to class and we had to come back at 3 o'clock and actually practice on the basketball court. So, that actually builds, man, a lot of character, a lot of mental toughness, because at the end of the day, what we do at the American Diabetes Association is an absolute dogfight, right? And so people don't stop getting diabetes. So we can't rest. This is a 24-hour-a-day job, and you have to be motivated. You got to be able to feed yourself. You got to be able to take better care of yourself so that you can take better care of the people that you serve every day.
Absolutely. I mean, I think finding your passion and, being in a position to help and influence others with that passion is key to success. I think we're both, kind of in that space, being in that healthcare space as well. So, to that, the healthcare landscape is constantly evolving. What major trends or shifts do you see shaping the industry within the next few years?
Yeah. I mean that's another great question. Well, it is the healthcare landscape is moving so fast. You in your role, as an SVP at SoftServe. When I think about AI, when I think about analytics, using data to make really fast decisions. I think that that's changing. We are really trying to figure out how AI is really going to play an integral part in healthcare. And so, learning management systems have been around for, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. But, we have to figure out how do we use AI so that we can improve people's lives, improve chronic conditions, get people diagnosed and treated, even faster. Right. And so when I think just about all the wealth of information out there, when I think about the new therapies that are out there, right? I think this is the greatest technological time in the history of mankind, but there's still an access problem. There's still an affordability problem, right? There's still an education problem, right? And so how do we make these tools simpler, right? So that we can meet people where they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, both of us, that's a part of our mission to bring that forward to, underserved populations and just, across the board, period.
Yep.
So you touched on technologies a little bit,
Yep.
AI and Gen AI and
Yep.
analytics and things like that. It's right up my alley. And a lot of the stuff we work on, so in the radiology space, if you apply Gen AI to something like that, think about a doctor,
Yep.
going through fatigue or, they could have seen something 1,000 times and still not be able to identify, different specifics because of fatigue or whatever that
Yep.
day. A computer is not, they don't get tired. They don't really make mistakes. So you have to really understand the level of intricacy that goes into technology and how it can really help us in the healthcare space. So as far as innovation and technologies, or approaches, is your company embracing as far as to improve patient outcomes and patient care?
Yeah, so I would say when we think about technology to help people manage diabetes, such as continuous glucose monitors, or for the acronym CGMs and automated insulin delivery systems, those can improve the lives and health of people living with diabetes. And so when I think about the millions of people living with diabetes, CGMs actually provide a significant, potentially life-changing benefit for the positive for day-to-day diabetes management. And then in turn, it may delay or prevent serious comorbidities, hospitalizations, and even death. But to your point about under-resourced, we know under-resourced communities have less access to CGMs. And so from an ADA standpoint, what we're doing is that we've led advocacy efforts that actually have resulted in greater access to CGMs for those in Medicare, Veterans Affairs, and in more than 10 state Medicaid programs, including the most populous states in the U.S.
Absolutely. And so, that's phenomenal. It sounds like you guys are doing really great work and making some significant progress. Can you discuss any recent initiatives or partnerships your company has undertaken to address issues within the healthcare accessibility and affordability space?
Yeah. So one thing at the ADA, we absolutely believe that health equity is a human right. And so as a part of our health equity work, we've actually developed the Health Equity Bill of Rights, which is a list of 10 rights that envision a future without unjust health disparities. So, access to transportation, access to food. And so, we have 10. And so what this does, Roy, is this really ensures that more than 136 million Americans living with diabetes and prediabetes, along with the millions more who are at high risk for diabetes, no matter their race, income, zip code, age, education, gender, all get equal access to the most basic human rights of their health. And so, what we need is we need community-based partners, corporations, healthcare professionals, policymakers, volunteers, and more to come alongside us to improve the lives of those affected by diabetes. And ultimately, the goal is to find a cure. But in the meantime, we look to develop and measure partnerships. They must align with one or more of our Bill of Rights. And so I can give you just a couple quick examples. And so a great example is our recent partnership with Genentech to raise awareness around diabetes-related eye disease, because diabetes, for a lot of people that don't know, is a leading cause of vision loss in people 18 to 64 years old. And so then people of color and older adults living with diabetes are especially at high risk for losing their vision. And so we have a pilot going on in Birmingham, Alabama, which is the heart of the diabetes belt. They're actually like 27% higher than the average rate in the U.S. And so we have local organizations hosting eye screenings, grocery giveaways that include diabetes education, and and meeting people where they are. Another example is a partnership which I really, really like as well, that we're doing in Chicago with support from Baxter, and then 2 community-based organizations. And we're supplying residents in Chicago that live in food deserts in the Inglewood part of Chicago with access to nutritious foods. And this has taken on a couple different forms. And so one is providing weekly deliveries of fresh fruits and vegetables. And then another is providing education and tools for people to grow their own fresh fruits and vegetables. And then lastly, we had a partnership with Abbott, which is, global Fortune 5 company. And we're partnering with a local community-based organization. And we've provided about 150 CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, in underserved communities with people that have type 2 diabetes. And what this does is that it allows them to better monitor their blood glucose levels and ultimately manage their diabetes throughout their lives. And so with all of these partnerships, we're supplying residents with diabetes education and meeting people where they are in the community in which they live and thrive.
That is phenomenal. That really gets me excited to see the kind of work that you guys are doing and helping out the community, because that is so important. People just don't know how much need there is out there.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my other question, which is also near and dear to a lot of us. I mean, with what's going on in America right now.
Yeah.
So mental health is often overlooked, but significantly impacted by diabetes.
Yeah.
So how does the ADA address the mental and emotional aspects of living with diabetes?
Yeah, Roy. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, the ongoing demands of diabetes self-care and the possibility or reality of disease progression are directly linked to reported diabetes stress. And so, just throwing out a few numbers, almost half of the people living with diabetes in the United States experience behavioral health issues. And so, behavioral health care is an integral part of diabetes management. And so I can refer to our standards of care, which is the holy grail of everything diabetes. And so in that standards of care, we indicate that clinicians should implement psychosocial screening protocols for people living with diabetes, as well as for caregivers and family members. And so our guidance is that screening takes place annually or when there's a change in disease treatment, or if there are other significant life changes. And so for people affected by diabetes, it's also important for them to know that it's normal to feel an emotional strain. I mean, anybody dealing with anything from a health standpoint is very stressful. and it's important that they ask for help. And so in terms of what we offer from the American Diabetes Association standpoint, we offer support. We offer tools that actually help you tackle the day-to-day challenges of living with diabetes. And people can use our mental health professional directory to actually find someone local to their specific area that they live in.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great to hear. I mean, my next question, I think you kind of tackled, which was, your collaboration with organizations. So it sounds like you're doing some work with Genentech and Baxter and some other, amazing
Yeah.
organizations to drive, help throughout the community. I mean, is there anything else you want to touch on that?
Absolutely, Roy. I mean, I would say first, I would be remiss not to say that we have a really talented team of employees, individuals at the ADA that are super passionate about improving the lives of everyone affected by diabetes. And many of them have personal connections to the disease, whether it's type 1, type 2, or family members. And so, but at the end of the day, when I talk about partnerships, we can't take on this fight alone. We need community-based partners, corporations, healthcare professionals, policymakers, volunteers, and more to come alongside us to improve those lives of people affected by diabetes. And so, at the ADA, we actually talk about that it takes all of us to fight diabetes, which means there's a role for everyone to play in this fight in giving time, talent, and resources. Again, I said time, talent, and resources. Resources is last. We need the time, we need the energy, we need the talent. And so, we're absolutely fortunate to have amazing partners and a strong group of volunteers that advocate in communities on behalf of the ADA across the country. And they provide, their support also in advancing our mission. And so, if anybody wants to come along for that journey, we have opportunities to volunteer, which include, staffing our signature events, which are walking and cycling events, or volunteering at our camps. We have over 30 camps across the country that are focused on kids living with type 1. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have clinicians on staff that, help them along this journey in those camps, and advocating for policies that support people living with diabetes. And again, if folks want to know more, please, get involved at diabetes.org /get-involved. But those are all the different ways that folks can collaborate and volunteer.
Absolutely. That's very good to know. And I'll make sure I put that link in the actually when I post the podcast here to go live. So that's phenomenal, Chuck. So I know you guys have been instrumental in advocating for policies that benefit people with diabetes. Can you highlight some recent policy successes or ongoing advocacy efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. And huge shout out to our advocacy group. We have a fantastic advocacy team. We have a small but a mighty team. They actually get a lot of things done for us on behalf of people living with diabetes. And so, for like decades, the ADA has been around, Roy, 80, going on 84, 4 years. And so the ADA has led the fight in federal, state legal advocacy to make a real difference in the lives of people affected by diabetes and prediabetes. And so over the last several years, we've actually amplified our advocacy campaigns, driving efforts to make sure insulin and other medications are more affordable, and also ensuring that the great diabetes technology is available to those who need it. And then really it's about, how does someone help us accomplish our goals? And so the ADA has really harnessed the power of our nearly 500,000 diabetes associates from across the country who've raised their voices in support of the ADA and in support of what we're doing from an advocacy standpoint. And so, Roy, I'm a fighter. Right. I've overcome a lot in my life. And so the ADA won't back down until everybody affected by diabetes has what they need to live, until health equity is a standard for all. And so, some of our key advocacy goals, is to make medicines, devices, and care affordable and accessible for all, promote health equity, put an end to all forms of diabetes discrimination, increasing U.S. funding dedicated to to diabetes research and programs. And, and I'll tell you just as quickly, some of our key wins in the last year: insulin affordability, technology access, amputation prevention, and nutrition and weight management. And so, look, I look forward, to the future. I love doing what I do.
Absolutely. And speaking about the future, because it definitely sounds that way. What are your next standing priorities to continue to fight against diabetes, and how do you envision the organization evolving to meet the changing needs of those affected by the disease?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question. And so when I think about it from a strategic standpoint, we have four priorities at the ADA. The first is research. Hands down, it's all about the research, all about the science. And so the ADA plays, critical roles in diabetes research from funder to enabler and shaper. We facilitate research that supports the diabetes community with an eye towards a cure. We actually host the largest diabetes research conference every year called Scientific Sessions, where the latest cutting edge advances in diabetes research, care, and prevention are unveiled. We have like 12,000 people that descend, on a specified location. This year it'll be in Orlando. We'll probably have about 12,000 people coming. Probably, half of those people are going to come from overseas, and the rest are going to come from the U.S. So it's a great conference. And so hand in hand with research, our next priority is quality of care. We want to ensure that everyone living with diabetes and prediabetes receives the best care possible. We believe our standards of care, or we update our standards of care every year to incorporate the latest clinical practice recommendations. And again, like I said before, it is the gold standard for people living with diabetes. Our third pillar is food and nutrition, right? So at its core, what you put in your body, you are what you eat, is that old adage when we were growing up. And so we want everyone, living with prediabetes and diabetes to have access to nutrition information to help them prevent or manage their diabetes. We actually, even online at our Diabetes Food Hub, provide diabetes-friendly recipes to meet people where they are. And then lastly, I would say the foundation of our final strategic priority is health equity and access. And so again, it's back to us launching our Health Equity Now Bill of Rights, regardless of location, background. We believe everybody needs to have access to care, healthy food, affordable treatment and technology, and information to break down the barriers to care. And so this is woven into the fabric of everything we do at the ADA.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. You guys are, a beacon of hope, for the fight here. So speaking of the fight again, I know you're a busy guy and don't want to take this. This is probably the last question, but how can people join in the ADA's fight to end diabetes and support those in the diabetes community?
Yeah, so I would say individually there are, several steps or several ways that you can take to raise awareness and educate people about diabetes. First, it's really about understanding our own risk for developing type 2 diabetes. And we have a 60-second risk test that you can take online. And that's at diabetes.org/risk test. So that's one way. Another way is if you're living with type 2 diabetes or the risk test indicates that you're at a higher risk, visit diabetes.org to assess our great resources. I would say a third way is educate customers, educate partners, educate friends and family about how to understand their risk and ways they can help lower the risk of diabetes. And then lastly, Roy, I would say just get involved. Again, as I said earlier, there are multiple opportunities to volunteer with Project Power, our ADA signatory events, our camps for kids, or to just advocate in general for people living with diabetes. And so you can go to diabetes.org/get-involved. And so those are all the multitude of ways that you can get involved in this great organization that I feel so blessed to lead.
Hey, that's amazing. I mean, it sounds like you're very passionate about it, and you guys are making some significant strides. So I'm happy to hear that. Chuck, I know, like I said, you're a busy guy, and you got a full schedule. I just wanted to thank you again for joining us. Did you have any final thoughts that you want to leave us with, or any closing comments for the
Yeah,
audience?
just really thank you, Roy. I mean, I know we've known each other a long time, but proud of what you're doing in this space, because what you all do, is very, very important work, because it allows corporations, it allows nonprofits that I lead to operate even faster, and then be able to make better decisions with those digital technology based tools that allow us to make smarter decisions. And when we're making smarter decisions, it allows us to make smarter decisions on behalf of the people that we serve. And in this case, it's people living with diabetes. So, kudos to you and SoftServe, and they should be grateful to have you as an executive in their enterprise.
Hey, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it as always. It's a pleasure. We've got some serious history. A lot of great things that we've done together. Both on and off the court. On the court, what always stands out in my mind, the free throw, the Texas Tech. So, if folks don't know the some of the rivalries in Texas between the colleges, Texas A&M and Texas was one, and then Texas A&M and Texas Tech was a big one because of the cast of talent that was there back when Chuck and I played. We actually played against Darvin Ham, who's now the head coach of the Lakers,
Yeah.
on that team, who was very talented, but there were some very other talented folks on that team as well.
Yes.
So just to give Chuck another feather in his cap, Chuck hit the free throw in Lubbock at Texas Tech to win that game for us, which ended up turning into a friggin' melee because the fans were so upset they tried to kill us at the end of the game, and they literally rushed the court to try to kill us. But kudos to you, Chuck, for being the hero that you are, and continuing to be in the hero that you are in your new role.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, man. Enjoyed the time today, and I look forward to catching up with you in person soon, man. So thank you.
Absolutely. Same here, Chuck. You take care and best wishes.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay.
Gig 'em.
Thank you. Gig 'em.